Wait, so you can actually get divorced even if your spouse never signs anything?
Yes, it's called a default divorce. It happens when one spouse files for divorce but the other doesn't respond.
Why would someone not respond?
There are a few reasons. Sometimes they ignore it, sometimes they disagree but don't want to go to court, and sometimes they just don't know what to do.
So the court just moves forward even if one person doesn't participate.
Exactly, Maniesiam, but you have to follow all the steps carefully. That's what we're breaking down today.
This is general divorce information. Laws vary, so check with a legal professional in your area.
Laws vary, but smart strategies don't. This channel helps you avoid common mistakes and make better decisions during divorce. In this episode, we'll take a closer look at one of those options, default divorce, and explain it in more detail. Just keep in mind, divorce options are where this conversation begins, not where it ends on this channel. You'll learn what a default divorce is, what to do if your spouse doesn't respond, key steps, deadlines, and timelines, how to prepare documents and serve them properly, typical costs and legal guidance, common mistakes to avoid, where to find reliable information. A default divorce happens when one spouse files for divorce, but the other doesn't respond within the time required by the court. The court can finalize the divorce even without the other spouse participating. It's not automatic. You need to properly serve the papers, wait the required response period, and file the correct forms with the court.
What happens if the spouse eventually wants to respond? Can the default be undone?
Sometimes, yes. For example, the Nevada Court's Self-Help Center says you can file a motion to set aside or undo a default if you have a valid legal reason and act within the allowed time. Things like improper service, mistakes, or emergencies may qualify, but it's not guaranteed, and the judge has to approve it.
And the cost? Is a default divorce cheaper than a contested one?
Typically, yes. There's no trial or lengthy negotiations. Filing fees usually range from $100 to $500, and hiring an attorney for basic guidance may cost a few $100s more.
Can you walk us through the steps for a default divorce?
Sure, here's a typical process. Step 1. File the petition. The first step is filing the divorce petition. This is the document that officially starts the process.
Where do you get that petition? Can I just download it online, or do I have to go to the courthouse?
You have options. Most courts provide forms online on their official website, which you can fill out and print. Or you can go to the courthouse and get a physical copy from the clerk's office. Both work.
Is it complicated to fill out?
It's mostly straightforward. You'll need basic info like names, marriage date, children, property, and what you're asking for in the divorce. Some people choose to have a lawyer review it, especially if there are complex assets. Step 2. Serve the papers. The other spouse must be officially served with the divorce documents.
Mark, when someone files for divorce, how do they actually serve the papers to their spouse? I've heard that part can be tricky.
Good question. The short answer is, well, it depends on the state. But in most states, any adult over 18 who isn't part of the case can serve the divorce papers.
So, does that mean a friend or family member could do it?
Exactly. If you have a friend or family member who's not involved in your case, they can usually hand deliver the papers. However, some states are stricter. They may require a sheriff, court officer, or a professional process server, unless the court gives you permission to use someone else.
What if someone doesn't have a friend or family member who can do it?
Then it's often easier to use a professional process server. They're trained to handle this correctly and legally. Usually charge between $50 to $150 depending on how urgent or far they need to travel.
Where can someone find one of those?
You can search online for process server near me, or check your local court's website. They often have a list of approved or recommended servers. And if you're working with a divorce attorney, they can usually connect you with a trusted one.
Do these servers need a license or something?
In some states, yes. They must be licensed or registered. Professional companies often show proof of training or bonding, which helps make their service credible.
Okay, once the papers are served, what happens next?
After the papers are handed directly to your spouse, that's called personal service. The person who served them must fill out a proof of service form. That form gets filed with the court to show everything was done correctly.
So, why would someone choose a professional instead of just asking a friend?
Two big reasons. First, professional servers make sure it's done legally so your spouse can't challenge it later. And second, it helps you avoid personal conflict, which can be a big relief if emotions are already high.
That makes sense. Sounds like paying a bit for peace of mind might be worth it.
Step 3, wait for a response. Once the papers are served, the next step is to wait for a response from your spouse. This is the official period where they can reply to the divorce petition.
How long do they usually have to respond?
It depends on the court, but generally it's a set number of days after service. Enough time for the spouse to review the papers and decide whether to respond.
What happens during this waiting period?
Mostly you wait. The other spouse can agree and sign the papers, contest parts of the divorce, or not respond at all. Meanwhile, it's a good idea for you to prepare your documents such as financial info, bank statements, income, debts, property lists, house, cars, investments, parenting plans if children are involved.
What if the spouse doesn't respond at all?
If they don't respond within the deadline, you can move on to filing for default, which is step 4. But it's crucial to keep track of deadlines. Missing them can delay your divorce.
So this waiting period is actually an active step. You're organizing your documents and preparing for the next move.
Step 4, file for default.
Mark, what happens if the spouse doesn't respond? How do you file for default?
If the response deadline passes with no reply, you can file a motion or request for default with the court. This tells the court that the other spouse didn't respond and that you want the divorce finalized.
Do you need a lawyer to do this, or can you handle it yourself?
You can usually do it yourself using the court's instructions, especially for a simple default divorce. But having a lawyer review your forms can prevent mistakes that might delay the process.
What forms do you need to file?
You'll generally need the motion or request for default form, proof of service showing the spouse was served, any supporting documents the court requires, like financial disclosures or parenting information.
Is there anything special to watch out for when filing for default?
Yes, make sure all forms are completely filled out. Proof of service is attached. Deadlines have been met. Any additional documents required by the court are included.
And after you file, is the divorce final immediately?
Not quite. The court reviews your filing, and if everything is correct, the judge will issue a final judgment. Sometimes they may schedule a short hearing for questions, but often it's finalized on paperwork alone.
So filing for default is basically telling the court, my spouse didn't respond, please finalize the divorce.
Step 5, court review and final judgment.
Mark, after filing for default, what does the court actually do?
Once your default request is filed, the court reviews everything to make sure all steps were followed correctly. Papers were properly served. All required forms and documents are complete.
Do you have to go to court in person?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. For simple default divorces, many courts finalize the divorce on paperwork alone. If the court needs more info, they may schedule a short hearing, but often the judge can sign the final judgment without you appearing.
And once the judge signs, the divorce is official?
Exactly. When the judge signs the final judgment of divorce, the marriage is legally ended. You'll usually get a copy of the judgment from the court. This is your official proof of divorce.
Is there anything else people should know about this step?
Yes, keep copies of all documents. Make sure your proof of service, financial disclosures, and judgment are stored safely. Even after the divorce is final, these documents may be needed for future matters like updating your name, property, or child custody arrangements.
Mark, can you share some real-life examples so viewers can see how default divorces actually happen?
Sure. Here are 3 illustrative stories that show different situations. Sarah filed for divorce after deciding she wanted to separate from Tom. She properly served him with the papers, but Tom never responded. Wanting the divorce finalized quickly, Sarah rushed to file for a default judgment before the required waiting period had passed. When the court reviewed her paperwork, they noticed she hadn't waited long enough before moving to the next step. Her request was rejected, and she was instructed to follow the correct timeline. Once Sarah waited the required number of days and refiled properly, the court allowed the default process to continue, and the divorce was finalized without Tom ever participating.
Looks like Sarah tried to move ahead too fast.
The court doesn't let you skip steps just because the other spouse doesn't respond.
Makes sense. The process has rules for a reason.
Exactly. If someone files too early, the court will catch it every time. James filed for divorce and formally served Laura with the papers. But when she received them, Laura was overwhelmed. She was shocked, hurt, and emotionally drained. She couldn't think straight, and days slipped by as she tried to process what the divorce meant for her future. By the time she finally gathered the strength to respond, the deadline had already passed. She submitted her paperwork anyway, hoping the court might still let her contest the divorce. When the judge reviewed her explanation, they understood she had been going through a difficult emotional period. But emotional shock alone wasn't considered a legally valid excuse for missing the deadline. Because of that, the default judgment stayed in place, and the case moved forward without her response.
So Laura tried to respond, just a little late. Why wouldn't the court accept it?
Right. In Laura's case, her reason didn't meet those legal exceptions, so the process had to stay consistent, and the case moved forward. Emily filed for divorce, and since David never responded, she figured she could take whatever she wanted. She submitted a property division proposal that was heavily in her favor. The court reviewed the petition and noticed the imbalance. The judge required adjustments to make the settlement fair and in line with legal standards before finalizing the divorce. This shows that even if a spouse ignores the process, the court ensures minimum fairness.
Mark, what are some common mistakes people make during a default divorce?
There are a few things that can slow down or even derail the process. Improper service of papers. If the papers aren't served correctly, for example, leaving them on a doorstep instead of handing them directly, the court may reject your default request. Missing deadlines. Courts have strict deadlines for responses, filings, and motions. Missing a deadline can delay your divorce or even allow the other spouse to contest the default. Incomplete or incorrect forms. Filing forms with missing information, incorrect signatures, or wrong attachments can result in the court rejecting your filing. Not keeping copies of documents. Losing track of proof of service, financial records, or other key papers can create problems later if the court requests them. If you serve papers correctly, meet deadlines, fill out all forms completely, and keep organized copies, you'll avoid most common issues. Here's the key takeaway. A default divorce isn't just about a spouse choosing not to respond. It's about making sure you follow the court's rules step by step. When service is done correctly, deadlines are tracked, and your forms are complete. The court can move your case forward even if the other person stays silent. Today's examples showed how easy it is to run into delays when something's rushed, missed, or incomplete, and how much smoother everything goes when you stay organized. Even in a default, the court still checks for fairness, meaning your paperwork needs to be accurate, reasonable, and properly supported. So the big lesson is this. Default divorce works best when you stay patient, follow the process, and let the court do its job.
If you haven't watched episode 1, start there. It gives a clear overview of your divorce options so you can focus on what fits your situation. Thinking about a DIY divorce. Next, we'll begin our 2-part DIY divorce series. In part 1, we'll help you decide whether a DIY divorce is right for you. Then in part 2, we'll walk you through the process step by step.
And remember, divorce options are where this conversation begins, not where it ends on this channel. When you understand the road ahead, you can guide your divorce in the direction that truly works for your life. And even if you hire a great attorney, you should still stay in the driver's seat, not the back seat where you can't see where things are headed. But you don't have to go through this alone. The right knowledge at the right time can change everything. Laws vary, but smart strategies don't. Divorce information. Always by your side.